right, today we've got a review of the Vandal in the Lucid Plastic from Dynamic Discs. This is a 9-speed fairway driver. Feels very comfortable in the hand, as most 9-speeds do. Easy to establish a power and fan grip. The bottom of it is relatively smooth. A nice transition to the lower line here with no bead. Relatively flat, not really much of a pop top. Great durability and feel to the disc. Feels great. Let's see how it flies in the field.
All right, here we are out in the field with the Lucid Vandal, doing a nice little hyzer flip here. Two notable things about the Vandal. One is that it's a speed 9, so it's very comfortable in the hand. You have no problem gripping on it, and gives you the confidence to rip on it with it being in that Lucid Plastic. Second notable thing about it is the glide that the disc has. Once it gets to its upright position on this hyzer flip, it just wants to stay straight for so long before it gets to its low speed turn. Here we'll see me throwing into a slight headwind, and you can see how long it's just in that flat position before it actually starts to fall out. Did not mean to make it to the street or past the cameraman, but the glide on the disc was just, it was understated from when I threw it. You would have thought I learned my lesson. I tried to dial back a little bit or go back further a little bit, but it still made it to the street, partially because of all the glide that the disc has. The Vandal is a forehand friendly disc. If you know how to work a forehand, getting out on the hyzer to flip up, it will be ideal for that late turning shot. Here, the first one didn't quite get the angle right, and the second one was trying to do a forehand into a headwind. It just turned it completely over. That's where the glide can kind of bite you, because if it's gliding toward the wrong direction, it's going to continue gliding toward the wrong direction. So you want to definitely make sure that you're throwing some controlled shots with this disc. This is another example of the glide. Trying to throw a turn over, the wind just took it and it just went forever.
That thing has so much glide.
All right, so we have the Vandal in the field. I have to say, I was expecting this disc to fly a certain way, and for the most part it did. When you look at the numbers of 9.5, -1.5, and 2, you have a certain expectation. Now, granted, we were throwing into some differing wind conditions, but this disc was actually performing really well despite those conditions. It's a very easy disc to get from hyzer to flat. It will slowly transition to the right without getting too crazy. Now, obviously, if you're throwing it into more of a headwind, then it's going to turn for you a lot more. However, it's very controllable. I think if you're somebody who's a newer player, this is a great transitional disc to get you into throwing some higher speeds, but it's not going to be something that's uncontrollable as you get up to a higher arm speed. So it's definitely workable as you progress throughout your game. For me, I'm a big fan of the Escape. This flies like a very seasoned Escape to me. Very similar feel. Getting it down on a roller is definitely a good play for this disc as well. Despite not being a great wind for that roller, it still works out. Just overall, I think it flies really well and holds just about any line you want to throw it on, as long as you're able to control the amount of power that you put on the disc.
The Vandal gets a rating of in the bag. The Vandal in Lucid Plastic is just a controlled kite. It just stays in the air for so long. The Speed 9 makes it a comfortable grip for the majority of players. You may not be able to get your hands around the 13 speed, but you can get your mitts on this one for sure. With all flippy discs, you have to be aware of when not to throw it. On one day of field work, we should have just stuck a pin in it and came back to it later because the wind was not on our side. This is not the disc you reach for when you have strong gusts. In normal conditions, this would be a control driver that glides its way into the range of your distance drivers. Its understability makes it a good straight disc for the average rec player and a good shot shaper for the advanced and above player. And that's why it's in the bag.
The Vandal in the Lucid Plastic is getting a final rating of in the bag. As I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of the Escape, and this just felt like a baby brother to the Escape. It's such a subtle right-hand turn that you get from this disc, along with the glide. Just like the Escape, this disc has some sneaky glide and can get out there near distance driver distances when thrown correctly. I think if you're a lower arm speed, this will really help introduce that hyzer flip to your game. I think as you progress into some more intermediate arm speeds, you can get that right hand movement, especially if you don't have a forehand in the woods. This disc will definitely help you out in a lot of those situations. The glide, the workability, and the ease factor and the comfort of this disc is why I'm putting it in the bag. We here at Ace Run Productions want to give a very special thank you to Dynamic Discs for supplying the disc that you just saw in this review video. Please make sure to head on down to our description where we will have a direct link on where you can go to get your hands on the disc that you just saw in this video. Check out dynamicdisc.com for all your needs for dynamic discs, Westside discs, and Latitude 64. They have a virtually endless supply of your disc golf needs covered. Please head on over, and again, special thank you to everyone there at Dynamic Discs.